The world's most critical oil route is under threat. Now the UAE is preparing to step in alongside the United States. From mediator to military player, Abu Dhabi may join a mission to break Iran's grip on the Strait of Hormuz. But this move could escalate the conflict and redraw power lines across the Middle East. The United Arab Emirates is preparing to step into one of the most volatile flashpoints of the Iran conflict, signaling a major shift in Gulf geopolitics. Abu Dhabi is now weighing direct participation in a US-led effort to reopen the Strait of Hormuz, a critical artery through which roughly 20% of the world's oil flows. For weeks, Iran's effective closure of the strait has sent shockwaves through global energy markets, pushing oil prices sharply higher and raising fears of a wider economic crisis. Against this backdrop, President Donald Trump has been urging allies to take on a greater share of the burden, even suggesting that countries dependent on Gulf oil should act militarily to secure it. The UAE now appears ready to answer that call. Officials in Abu Dhabi are actively pushing for a multinational coalition, with discussions centered on creating a Hormuz Security Force to escort shipping and counter Iranian threats. This marks a significant departure from the UAE's earlier posture. Until recently, the country had positioned itself as a mediator between Washington and Tehran. Now, after a series of Iranian missile and drone attacks on its territory and infrastructure, its stance has hardened considerably. Reports suggest the UAE is even willing to use force if necessary, potentially becoming the first Gulf state to join active combat operations alongside the United States in the current crisis. Strategically, the UAE brings considerable assets to the table. Its proximity to the Strait of Hormuz, combined with advanced air capabilities and key port infrastructure such as Jebel Ali, makes it a crucial partner in any military or maritime operation. Analysts say its involvement could expand operational options for Washington, from escorting oil tankers to securing contested islands and sea lanes. The IRGC says the situation in the Strait of Hormuz is firmly and dominantly under its control and will not be open to the enemies of this nation by the ridiculous displays of the US president. But the risks are equally significant. Any direct Emirati involvement could trigger further escalation with Iran, which has already warned regional states against supporting efforts to break its control of the strait. Retaliatory strikes, disruption to trade, and broader regional instability remain real possibilities. Diplomatically, the UAE is also pushing for international legitimacy. Alongside allies such as Bahrain, it is advocating for a United Nations Security Council resolution to authorize a multinational mission. However, opposition from major powers like Russia and China could complicate those efforts. If Abu Dhabi commits, it would not just be joining a mission, it would be redefining its role in the Middle East's most dangerous conflict and aligning itself firmly with Washington at a moment of profound geopolitical consequence. A widening rift is emerging between Washington and key European allies, as Italy, France, and Spain move to restrict US military operations linked to the ongoing conflict with Iran. According to Corriere della Sera and ANESA, Italy has denied US military aircraft permission to transit through Naval Air Station Sigonella, a critical logistics hub in the Mediterranean. Italian Defense Minister Guido Crosetto reportedly informed Washington that US planes could not use the base en route to the Middle East, citing a lack of prior authorization and consultation required under bilateral agreements. The decision is notable given Prime Minister Giorgia Meloni's close alignment with Donald Trump and reflects growing domestic pressure within Italy to avoid direct involvement in the conflict. Spain has taken an even firmer step beyond its previous denial of use of jointly operated military bases, Defense Minister Margarita Robles said on March 30th.
We don't authorize either the use of military bases or the use of airspace for actions related to the war in Iran.
According to El País, Madrid has closed its airspace to US military aircraft linked to operations against Iran, forcing flights to reroute across longer paths. Spain's economic leadership has framed the move in political and legal terms.
This decision is part of the decision already made by the Spanish government, not to participate in or contribute to a war, which was initiated unilaterally and against international law.
The restrictions mark a significant constraint on US operational flexibility, particularly as European bases and air corridors have historically played a key role in Middle East deployments. Tensions have also surfaced with France. President Trump criticized Paris for blocking overflight access for military supply missions.
The country of France wouldn't let planes headed to Israel, loaded up with military supplies, fly over French territory. France has been very unhelpful with respect to the butcher of Iran, who has been successfully eliminated. The USA will remember.
The coordinated European pushback underscores broader unease over the conflict, with leaders such as Pedro Sanchez publicly opposing US and Israeli military actions. As Washington expands its military footprint, Europe is drawing clearer boundaries. The denial of bases and airspace signals not just operational friction, but a deeper political divide over strategy, legality, and the risks of escalation in a widening war. 3 weeks into the US-Israeli war on Iran and the Strait of Hormuz, the narrow waterway through which 20% of the world's oil flows remains effectively shut. A fifth of the planet's energy bottled up. Oil has crossed $106 a barrel, up roughly 45% since the war began on February 28th. And on March 15th, President Donald Trump decided he had waited long enough.
We are demanding that these countries come in and protect their own territory because it is their territory. It's a place from which they get their energy. And they should come and they should help us protect it. You could make the case that maybe we shouldn't even be there at all because we don't need it. We have a lot of oil. We're the #1 producer anywhere in the world times 2. By double, at least double. Now I think it's much higher than that. But we do it. It's almost like we do it for habit. But we also do it for some very good allies that we have.
Trump said his administration had already been in contact with 7 nations. He wouldn't name them. But over the weekend, he had been less subtle, posting publicly that he expected China, France, Japan, South Korea, and Britain to step up and send warships. His argument was straightforward. If you depend on this waterway, you should help guard it. He took that argument further in a rare 8-minute phone call with the Financial Times on Sunday.
If there's no response, or if it's a negative response, I think it will be very bad for the future of NATO. I've long said that NATO is a one-way street.
Then came the warning aimed directly at Beijing.
And China, as an example, gets about 90% of its oil from the Hormuz Strait. And nice to have other countries police that with us. And we'll help. We work militarily. As far as I'm concerned, we've essentially defeated Iran.
Trump told the Financial Times he expects China to commit before he travels to Beijing for his summit with President Xi Jinping, scheduled for the end of March. He's even dangled the possibility of pulling back from that trip entirely. Trump's demand landed, but the answers so far have not been what he was looking for. Japan, which imports 95% of its oil from the Middle East, said Monday it has no plans to send naval vessels anywhere near the strait. Prime Minister Sanae Takaichi, a known Trump ally, addressed Parliament directly.
As we have not yet received any such requests, it is difficult for us to respond to hypothetical matters. The Japanese government is currently examining what necessary measures should be taken. Of course, this will be within the Japanese legal framework, but we are proceeding with consideration as to how we can protect the lives of Japanese vessels and their crews.
Japan's position is not simply political caution. Its post-war constitution places hard limits on overseas military operations, especially combat missions against state actors. Tokyo's self-defense forces have conducted anti-piracy patrols near the Middle East before, but those were policing missions. What Trump is describing is something entirely different. Takaichi is expected to travel to Washington this week, and the conflict in Iran is at the top of the agenda. Australia, another key US security partner in the Indo-Pacific, was equally firm. Cabinet Minister Catherine King told state broadcaster ABC on Monday that Australia had not been asked to contribute and was not planning to send ships.
We know how incredibly important that is, but that's not something that we've been asked or that we're contributing to.
Britain's response drew some of Trump's sharpest words. After speaking with Prime Minister Keir Starmer on Sunday, Trump told the Financial Times he was not impressed.
The UK might be considered the #1 ally, the longest serving, etc. And when I asked for them to come, they didn't want to come. And as soon as we basically wiped out the danger capacity from Iran, they said, "Oh well, we'll send 2 ships." And I said, "We need these ships before we win, not after we win."
European Union foreign ministers were meeting Monday to discuss reinforcing a small existing naval presence in the Middle East, but diplomats said no decision was expected on extending operations to the Strait of Hormuz specifically. And on the question of when this ends, US officials were speaking with optimism over the weekend, predicting the war wraps up within weeks, and that oil prices would follow it down. But with Brent crude still trading above $104 Monday morning, and with Iran vowing to hold the line for as long as it takes, that prediction remains exactly that.
We are talking to other countries about working with us for the policing of the strait. And I think we're getting good response. If we do, that's great, and if we don't, that's great too.
Whether those responses translate into warships in the water is the question that will define the next chapter of this war.